Hi everyone. So this is Garvit. I'm the founder and CEO at Electron Labs. And today I'm going to present some of the stuff that we've been working on. And so we've all heard about ZK light clients and ZK bridges. Today we're going to present the same concept in a different light from a very different perspective and focus a lot more on the use cases side of things as opposed to the technology, what has been discussed in the recent couple of weeks and months. So Electron is building what we like to call as ZK compression of consensus protocols. So what that means is that we are essentially building a computation compression engine that allows you to generate these validity proofs of consensus protocols. What that means is that, so if you talk about consensus protocols such as Ethereum or Solana, they usually require you to rent out a large machine on AWS and actually paying for a decent amount of rent to actually run these machines. And these machines are quite incredibly hard to actually run on mobile phones and definitely not on smart contracts. What we do is actually we go ahead and generate a ZK proof for these consensus protocols, which makes it easy to verify at the verifiers end. So you don't really have to run these consensus nodes at your end, and you can actually verify them quite cheaply. To give you a bit more context on what that actually means, so imagine you actually wanted to run the Ethereum consensus node as a Solana smart contract. We'll get into why you would want to do that, but let's assume you want to do that. The challenge is that even though Solana is really scalable, it's supposed to be the most scalable chain out there. Even in that case, the Ethereum consensus node is so heavy that you can't run it as a Solana smart contract. Forget about running any consensus node of any blockchain or on the smart contract layer of any blockchain. It's just not possible today. So in order to solve this problem, we actually, as I discussed, we actually run these ZK provers, which create proofs of validity proofs of the consensus execution of the Ethereum consensus node, and that allows you to. So what you have to do is that all the computation requirements are essentially offloaded off-chain, and you can simply run a simple ZK light client node on Solana, which can essentially validate all the proofs coming from the prover, and you can basically verify transactions quite cheaply. If you go a bit into why you would want to do that, so I think one of the first obvious use cases is that ultra-secure cross-chain transactions. Any transaction that is originating on Ethereum can actually be verified with very high level of security on the Solana side, and basically you don't have to rely on any third-party security models. So that's kind of a high-level overview of what we've been building. As I said, this talk is mostly going to be focused on use cases of this technology, not the technology itself. We'll probably spend some time on the technical side towards the later half. So one by one in the rest of the presentation, I'm going to be looking at different use cases, and I'm going to be presenting each one of them that are enabled by this technology. So let's get started. So the first use case I would like to present today is the one that, that's the closest to my heart, is that if you are an alt L1, if you're running an L1, you can actually start renting security from the Ethereum blockchain using our technology. So what does this even mean? It means that if you're an alt L1, you can start essentially receiving proof of stake security from Ethereum restakers and pay them token rewards in return. This model essentially allows you to continue to operate your alt L1 as it was operating before, just like you've been operating for the past couple of years. And this actually presents a viable and a gradual path towards your alt L1 becoming an Ethereum Validium without giving up too much control, without making a drastic change to the infrastructure, and without giving up your sovereignty. Going a bit deeper into how this actually works under the hood. So we'll spend some time on this slide. So let's say as an alt L1 you wanted to rent security. So first of all, the first step is actually ETH stakers locking up some money on the staking contract. This could be, let's say this is ETH holders who are locking up some money. And by locking up this money, they're essentially intimating to everyone else that they are interested in providing security to this alt L1. And they are essentially putting up their collateral for slashing conditions for any consensus, any malicious action in the consensus execution by the alt N1 validators. At the same time, we also run the ZK consensus node of the alt L1 on the Ethereum smart contract. So what this allows us to do is that on Ethereum, we can completely track what is the action being taken up by these alt L1 validators? So for example, are they creating valid blocks? If they are creating valid blocks, you can record the same information on the ZK consensus node and actually pay out rewards to the staking contract. If they're conducting any malicious activity, that itself can be tracked on the Ethereum blockchain in a completely trustless fashion, allowing you to again slash the stakers who've provided money to the staking contract. Of course, in the middle, we have the ZK prover of ETH consensus running, powered by the Electron infrastructure that will allow you to create these validity proofs of consensus of or the alt L1. So that's kind of the first half of how you track the consensus on Ethereum. On the flip side, we also would like to maintain the Ethereum consensus on all the alt L1. This allows us to actually track how much money has been locked up by the staking ETH stakers on the Ethereum side, which actually informs the alt L1 consensus that it can update the voting power of the alt L1 validators, and this kind of becomes important for distributing rewards as well. So you can actually track the full history of additional validation delegations that have been received on the staking contract for the alt L1 validators. So going a bit deeper into the architecture itself, so when it comes to the staking contract, so we can actually invite a wide variety of token holders to actually lock up their money. So we can have plain vanilla ETH holders. You can also have staking derivatives, liquid staking derivatives. We can actually lock up any kind of ERC20 token. We can lock up stable coins, USDC. Even L2 coins can be locked up to actually provide security to any alt L1. So like if you're an L2, you can actually run another chain which is then secured by the governance token of your rollup. You can do that. And of course, you don't need to set up your complete infrastructure from scratch. We can simply reuse the work that has been done by Eigenlayer here. And so that we actually don't have to go and build our own supply of security to power this engine. So we can simply plug into that. If you abstract away the tech, what's essentially happening here at a very high level is that these alt N1 validators have essentially received delegations in the form of ETH in a cross-chain setting, and they're paying out rewards in the native form. So imagine you stake your contract, you stake your ETH on Ethereum, and then you're basically earning Solana token rewards on top of that against providing validation services. This is very similar to how proof of stake works in the first place, but this is in a cross-chain setting. Of course, you can issue a liquid staking token against the Ethereum that has been staked on your chain, and this liquid staking token can be issued on your alt L1 and can start chasing liquidity positions across DeFi protocols. Just want to mention here that this does not require running any additional infrastructure. Neither the stakers and nor the validators have to run any additional infrastructure for you to actually enable this to happen. So this increases your validator profitability since you're receiving more delegations without any increase in the infrastructure itself. Since Ethereum is a slightly more premium asset, you can actually get away with paying a lower amount of token emissions. Like Ethereum as a premium asset expects a lower yield as compared to, let's say if you were running your own chain where you're actually staking your native token to provide security, to your chain. And this token can basically fluctuate over time. As a result, the validators will essentially demand a much higher yield because of the fact that your token is, quite volatile. So you can actually get ETH, which is a more stable asset, to provide security to your chain. As a result, you pay lower APY on your security. So basically, you can get, for the same dollar value of security, you have to pay lower token emissions to secure your chain, which effectively reduces the overall operating cost of your network. And yeah, basically just improves your overall tokenomics. Yeah. And yeah, there's additional benefit, of course, Ethereum alignment is one of the biggest advantages here, as we've seen that increasingly more and more chains have been looking to attract Ethereum users and liquidity to their chain, and in return for the scalability services that they provide. And you can actually market your product, shell your product in the Ethereum ecosystem quite seamlessly, and actually even attract liquidity just by securing your chain. Yeah. And something I just want to reiterate here, this is a question we often get from people who are actually looking to rent security, that the first question we get is that if you're an ETH staker, are you required to run an additional node? Absolutely no. If you're an ETH staker and you want to run security using this model, all you have to do is essentially make a transaction using your MetaMask, lock up the money just like you do it with any other staking protocol, any other DeFi protocol, and that's it. Like, you don't have to run any additional infrastructure. You simply interact with the UI and send a transaction using MetaMask. That's it. You don't have to run any additional nodes. And just to talk a bit about adoption, like, this can actually be done on Cosmos SDK today, right? We are actually working with a couple of Cosmos SDK-based chains on this right now. So Cosmos SDK is this modular architecture which allows you to add these additional modules, which will allow you to rent security quite seamlessly. With a little bit of that, this can actually be extended to other chains as well, like Solana or any other chain for that matter that may be interested in renting security. And but yeah, like Cosmos SDK is kind of the place to start here. It's probably the lowest hanging fruit, and once people see it working for these kind of L1s, it probably becomes interesting for the other chains as well. Yeah, so like, imagine, like, again, talking about adoption, like, imagine, Canto and Celo, both chains recently announced that they are actually looking to transition from an L1 architecture to a roll-up-based architecture. Now, imagine, like, what must have happened at the leadership, level within these chains. Like, this is actually a pretty drastic measure. You're giving up your entire infrastructure that you've been running for quite a while. You're giving up your sovereignty. You're giving up your whole community, the way it has been organized around your sort of infrastructure. Like, you're giving up your validators as well. Your validators are going to be pissed off. And you're having to suddenly transition to an infrastructure which is not as well tested out as setting up your own L1. And so the idea being that the transition to an Ethereum rollup or Validium is actually quite complicated. It's actually a big decision right now because you have to give up this infrastructure and set up a new one. The model we are proposing here actually provides a transition, a very gradual and a slow transition to Ethereum, to becoming an Ethereum rollup or Validium, taking a gradual process and not giving up your sovereignty or control, in the entire process. So I believe people, more and more chains will increasingly start following this model as they transition to an Ethereum rollup architecture from an L1. Yeah, so that's the use case I just wanted to present. This is the first one. There are more use cases to come here. But yeah, just to summarize, we are essentially enabling alt L1s to essentially rent security from Ethereum. So moving on to more use cases. Yeah, so another use case I would like to present is again powered by this whole concept of ZK compression of consensus protocol. So we recently saw NIA make this announcement that they are actually looking to provide validation services, data validation and data availability services to the Ethereum rollups. And we expect that more and more chains will soon follow suit. That it just makes sense because these chains have a lot of block space that is free. They have a lot of cheap block space. And all you need to do essentially is basically run a ZK consensus node on Ethereum. So whenever basically a rollup that is operating is posting data, rather than posting data to a DAC, data availability committee, or directly on Ethereum and incurring high gas costs, you can actually publish this data to your alt L1. And from there on, we actually generate this ZK light client proof of the same, which can then be submitted back to the Ethereum contract for checking that the data has indeed been published. At the same time, this chain could actually be renting security from Ethereum as well. So you're basically getting a chain that is renting security from Ethereum and then is also posting light client commitments to Ethereum against any data that has been posted for that. This is like a very high security model while keeping the gas costs very low, right, in terms of data availability services. Right, and another use case I would like to talk about here is, so like, for example, if we talk about L2 to L2 bridging, we're probably going a bit fast here, like there are lots of use cases to present, but yeah, I'll continue to move forward on the same pace. So yeah, and so like, right now, like if you talk about L2 to L2 bridging, in L2 to L2 bridging, we're mostly using centralized services right now, which are again, come with their own set of problems. And one of the ways that L2s are trying to get around that problem is actually reading the Ethereum state directly inside the L2. This is actually a great technique, but it has some problems that it actually makes your overall infrastructure a bit more bloated. And it also, like, imagine like if these rollups wanted to sort of start interacting with other L1s as well going forward, maybe settle on them or maybe have a bridge with them. The problem is the moment, whenever this rollup wants to interact with another network, it would have to run the state, would have to have a pre-compile for the state of that chain inside the, inside the, the core infrastructure of your L2, which essentially makes it inflexible and it overall increases your cost as well. The model that we are proposing here will essentially allow you to run the Ethereum. So basically, this will shift the, the fact that you need to read the Ethereum state. It will shift that from a requirement of the core infrastructure to the smart contract layer. So you can actually read the Ethereum ZK consensus inside the L2 network. And from there on, you can essentially read the state of any other rollup, since rollups commit to Ethereum anyways. So what this allows us to essentially build is, if you wanted to do a completely trustless transaction, you can actually go from L2 to L2 directly using this model. While if you don't use this model and you wanted to do a trustless transaction, you have to first of all withdraw your assets back to Ethereum, and then from there on, you make a transaction to the second L2, which of course means you have to do a mainnet transaction, which increases your cost significantly. So this is a trustless way and a cheap way to conduct these transactions. What this unlocks essentially is that you have lots of L2s that are coming online, and the cost of switching these L2s is going to be pretty high. And what this allows us to do is that it reduces the cost of switching rollups and enables app-specific rollups to exist, because the cost of switching rollups would be, like, you don't have to do a mainnet transaction anymore. So you can simply switch to a rollup at L2 cost, making it really, really cheap to essentially switch rollups, yeah. And talking a bit more, yeah. Can you tell me how much time is left? Okay, thank you. Yeah. So presenting another use case. So again, like, this is something that people have experimented in the past, and it has never worked, right? So for example, we've often seen that people have demanded that wallets should essentially run a light node inside, like, inside a mobile phone or a browser. But that has actually never happened. And the reason for that is because light nodes, Ethereum light node, or any other light node for that matter, even though they're called light nodes, they're actually not so light. And if you were to actually run it on your mobile phone, it would be constantly downloading blocks every couple of seconds, which makes it incredibly, even though it's supposed to be light, it's still, you're downloading a lot of data, you're still processing a lot of information to actually run this infrastructure, which has made running light nodes on the client side quite impractical. Nobody does that, right? Ethereum phone, sorry. Ethereum OS, these guys are working on this. They actually run the light node on the operating system layer as well. I mean, yeah, like, they can essentially use our technology to run a ZK consensus node inside the phone, which means you only have to download, a couple of bytes, a couple of 100 bytes of data whenever you actually need to sync to the blockchain. Like, you don't have to do it continuously. You can switch off your phone for a couple of weeks, come back online, download a couple of 100 bytes of data, and that's it. You sync to the Ethereum blockchain, and you can start sending transactions, receiving transactions, and start interacting with the chain as you see fit. Yeah. So it's basically, again, maintaining the same security model while at the same time reducing the data requirements, network requirements, and computational requirements quite significantly using this model. Yep. And yeah, at this point, I think I would like to, that's kind of the use cases I wanted to present. And just going back a bit, I just want to summarize the use cases that we've discussed. The first one is obviously renting security for all L1s from Ethereum, starting with Cosmos. Enabling your chain, which is on alt L1, to essentially provide data availability services to Ethereum rollups. Ultra-secure cross L2 communications, enabling micro rollups to exist, and basically reducing the cost of these rollups quite significantly, the cost of switching rollups quite significantly. And of course, the last one we discussed, which is verifiable RBCs and client-side light clients. So that's the use cases I wanted to present. I think at this point, we can move to a bit of technical architecture and what is the stage of Electron, how much of this has actually been shipped so far. These are all future use cases. So let's actually try to understand where we are at today. So like, first of all, we are already live across 3 different networks: Cosmos, Near, and Ethereum. So of course, with Ethereum, we're using the Altair sync committee right now. since ZK proving the full Ethereum consensus is quite hard. Although that's something that we have started to explore around a bit, and I think we do have a roadmap in mind that I'll present on that going forward. And so yeah, like we have the Ethereum ZK light client powered by Altair already running as a near and awesome smart contract, written in Rust, again powered by the Electron's ZK infrastructure. Secondly, we have already built this out for the Cosmos and the near ZK light clients as well. This is deployed on Ethereum today. So again, so this is already live, by the way, live deployed on mainnet, actually powering transactions. So we actually operate a bridge between Ethereum and near right now. And this bridge has no multi-sig operators behind the scenes. Like no one actually securing these transactions. It's just the light client that is doing it. All transactions going from Ethereum to near to and fro between these two chains are actually secured by the ZK light client of each of them running on the other side. And yeah, right now we only kind of do the, so if you talk about consensus, it's mostly essentially validator signatures. So we have done ZK compression for validator signatures, and for the rest of the consensus process, like voting power and tracking all of that, that part is also coming soon this year. And we plan to like, achieve a 60x reduction in gas fees. We already achieved 30x reduction, but with a couple of upgrades, this will come down to 60x reduction in gas fees, as opposed to if you're running the full consensus on chain. And yeah, I think just one last thing I wanted to present here. So as I was talking about, the Ethereum Altair light client is kind of, it doesn't really borrow any Ethereum security right now, because like you can't slash validators on chain. If the Ethereum or sync committee members basically conduct any, malicious activity, you can't really slash them. So that's something we're essentially trying to fix by ZK proving the full beacon consensus. Basically, you post a single ZK proof on Ethereum or any other, smart contract environment. You add a single Merkle commitment of that, and these two information basically attest to the validity of the entire Ethereum blockchain. So you could like post a single commitment for the entire, for entire single block, or you could actually do this for the entire Ethereum blockchain from Genesis. So this is again something we're working on. Probably, quite a while it will take to build this, but yeah, definitely this is something we're going to see very soon. That will unlock all these use cases that we discussed just before. And yeah, I mean, we essentially use a combination of Starkey, Plonky2, and Grot16 to run this entire infrastructure. And yeah, I think I won't go too deep into the technical parts right now, but yeah, I think that's, yeah. So yeah, any questions like, would love to. Yeah.
Are you familiar with Mina, and can you compare how they do it, how you do it? Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So like Mina is basically, a lot of these ideas are actually borrowing from Mina protocol itself, because Mina has already actually achieved this. They are kind of, ZK compressing their entire consensus. I think one of the biggest differences here is that Mina was actually able to build their consensus and hashing schemes and all the cryptographic, primitives that they were using, optimized for ZK proving, right? The biggest difference here is that the consensus processes here were given to us, and then we had to fit the ZK engine to work with that. So a lot of cryptographic schemes we are using are actually very, very ZK unfriendly, like, they're kind of, hard to work with, essentially. Yep. Any other questions?